Corey is ready. Well, we're going to welcome everyone back for the second night of evening readings here at the Appalachian Writers Workshop in Hyman, Kentucky. We're so excited that each and every one of you are here with us because we have a wonderful program this evening. I don't want to talk anymore without just introducing McKenna Revel to get our evening started.
Hi, y'all. I'm a little tall for the mic, so I'm going to try. I'm McKenna Revel, and I have the true honor of introducing Kendra Winchester this evening. Kendra Winchester is a contributing editor for Book Riot, where she writes about audiobooks and disability literature. Originally from the Ohio River Valley, she is also the founder of Read Appalachia, which celebrates Appalachian literature and writing. Yeah. Better clap for that. And received the 2023 E-Appalachian Award from the Appalachian Studies Association. If you have not subscribed to that podcast, what are you doing with your one wild and precious life? Go do it immediately, please and thank you. It's amazing. Previously, Kendra co-founded and served as executive director for Reading Women, a podcast with Lit Hub Radio that gained an international following over its 6-season run. In her off hours, you can find her writing on her Substack, Winchester Ave, and posting photos of her corgis on Instagram. As a fellow dog mom, I have to say, Kendra, your fur babies are beautiful. Please tell your dogs that my dogs say hi. Y'all extend a warm welcome for Kendra Winchester.
Thank you. My dogs will return that. I think, is that right?
Yeah, Corey told me I was on mic duty.
Oh, okay. All right. Is it good? Is it good? Can you hear me? Awesome. All right. Well, July is Disability Pride Month, which, if you didn't know, back in July of 1990, the American with Disabilities Act passed, and that really changed a lot of our lives as disabled people. And so ever since, disabled people and hopefully everyone else is celebrating Disability Pride every July. And now it is an international event. And so I thought it would be fitting to read it from this collection. It's called Owning It, Our Disabled Childhoods in Our Own Words. And it's edited by Jen Campbell and James and Lucy Catchpole. And this is a collection of disabled adults from around the world writing about our disabled childhoods. You can become disabled at any point in your lifetime, but so not everyone was disabled as a kid. But being disabled deeply impacts your life. This is out in the UK. This is the UK edition, and it'll come out in the US in August. So please pre-order. I would be thrilled. And there are actually 2 Appalachian people featured in this collection, which is wonderful, considering you have people from as far as Iraq to Norway to Australia. It is fabulous. Would recommend it all. And the audiobook is available now, and I read the audio. So I'll be giving you a version of that today with my essay called Smile. The moment I see the sign for the Children's Hospital, I slink down in my seat. I hate doctor's appointments. Hey, chickie, my mom says from the driver's seat. I turn my head to look at her. Mom has that expression she always has when she's trying really hard not to sound annoyed. I said, when we get to the doctor's office, I need you to be nice. She put a lot of emphasis on be and nice. I roll my eyes. Aren't I always nice, I say. Mom clutches the steering wheel harder as she says, no, you always try to be a smart aleck. Please don't embarrass me this time. I'll try. No, she says, and a no-nonsense look on her face. You'll obey. Today is not the day to push. Sure, whatever I think. But I know better than to say it out loud. As Mom turns into the hospital complex, I see the glass front doors of the lobby entrance and hold my breath. Our minivan spirals down into underground parking garage, and I drop lower into my seat. Mom glances over at me again as she looks for a place to park. Can you at least try to have a better attitude? Can you at least try to smile? Inside, I feel anger coiling in my chest. If I try to answer her now, I know I will explode. My mom pulls into a parking spot. If you want to go to camp later this summer, I need you to make an effort. I close my eyes tight. I don't want to be in this fancy hospital in the city with this well-dressed staff. I feel frumpy in my secondhand oversized clothes, and I know I stick out. I can't stand the way the doctor looks at me and Mom like we should be grateful he's even agreed to see hillbillies like us. But all that stands between me and one glorious week of summer camp is this doctor's appointment. At camp, there aren't any doctors or blood tests. The other kids don't make fun of the fact I'm homeschooled because I'm so sick. No one cares about my clothes. I can just be me. After my mom parks, I sigh and step out of the van. For as long as I can remember, I've had migraines. If you've ever had an ice cream headache, it's sort of like that. But with migraines, loud noises and bright lights can make your head hurt even more. Some people get sick to their stomach or throw up with their migraines. For me, focusing on things like reading or doing math make my head feel like my skull is too small for my brain. I feel sure that one day my head is going to suddenly burst from the pressure. A few years ago, my mom and I made the 2.5-hour trip from our little home in the Appalachian Mountains along the Ohio River into the big city to see my migraine doctor for the first time. When I walked into the Cincinnati Children's Hospital, I marveled at the colorful artwork and countless windows. I had never seen such a big hospital, and it was all just for kids like me. Looking at the other sick kids around me made me feel like I was in the right place. But I remember as Mom and I rode up elevators and wandered down a maze of corridors, the bright, colorful world of the entryway had turned into a suffocating beige without a window in sight. When I walked into my doctor's office, I felt a little disappointed. Where had all the colors gone, and how could such a fancy doctor have made such a boring waiting room? Dr. Kaufman is a neurologist, so basically a brain doctor, and since he works with kids, he's a pediatric neurologist. And he has a reputation of being one of the best migraine specialists in the country. I've been going to see doctors since I was a little kid. Few of them helped my migraines, but I was sure that Dr. Kaufman would be different. I thought he would have a magic pill and poof, my migraines would be gone. But there is no magic pill or instant cure. Instead, for the first time I saw him, Dr. Kaufman ordered test after test. I had to have an MRI, which made me feel like I was in one of those sci-fi movies my dad liked to watch. I had to lie on a table and went into a tube that made really loud noises. But the nurse gave me some large headphones that went completely over my ears. The headphones were attached to a pair of large goggles that went over my eyes. When I put everything on, I realized I could watch cartoons on the inside of the goggles. Then I had to go to the lab where a nurse stuck me with a needle and I watched my blood flow into tubes that had stoppers in all different colors of the rainbow. The nurses always had so many different kinds of Band-Aids to choose from, and the nurse let me pick out a sticker. As far as test goes, it wasn't that bad. When we got test results back, Dr. Kaufman explained to me that it would probably take a long time to find the right combination of medications to help my migraines. So after the first appointment, we tried many different combinations. Now, every day I stare at all the different colored pills I have to take and wonder why I'm even taking them. None of them seem to help, and every time we try a new medication and it doesn't work, I feel a little more hopeless. I know I should be grateful for the sacrifices my parents make to be able to afford to take me to this very expensive doctor, but I don't see the point in coming all the way to Cincinnati when Dr. Kaufman doesn't seem to be actually helping me. I have nowhere else to go. Dr. Kaufman today enters the room and sits on his little rolling stool. One of the wheels squeaks louder than the others as he rolls over towards where I sit on the exam table. Dr. Kaufman greets my mom and asks about the drive. When he turns to me, I look down at my worn jeans and fiddle with the bottom of my faded black t-shirt. I try to hide how anxious I feel sitting in front of this fancy doctor in my rumpled clothes. Every time I move, the paper exam table crinkles and sticks to my skin. I hate that sound. It reminds me of how much of my life I spent in doctor's offices. People are always wanting to feel my abdomen and peer into my eyes with a bright light. I don't like being touched. I don't like things that are too loud or too bright. It all just makes my migraines worse. When Dr. Kaufman tests my reflexes and sense of touch, I stare at a picture of Babar the elephant hanging on the wall behind his shoulder. I take deep breaths for him and wish Babar could be my doctor. I imagine he would be the kindest doctor in the world. And Dr. Kaufman turns to me and says, "It wouldn't hurt you to smile a little." Thank you. He says that in a tone he says when he's trying to make a joke. When I don't respond, he sighs and rolls back. "So how's your medication going?" he asks. When I don't respond, Dr. Kaufman turns to my mom. She glances at me and says, "The new meds seem to be fine, right?" For a moment, we sit in awkward silence. "I can't remember things," I blurt out. "I can't remember things anymore." "What?" Dr. Kaufman asked, tilting his head to the side. "Since you put me on these new medications, I can't remember things. I can't memorize new things anymore." "Well, that happens to a lot of kids in puberty, especially girls," he says. "Not like this," I say. "This isn't my normal. It's awful." Why won't he just believe me? I look up and see my mom's face. I know that at least she believes me. Mom will always be on my side. Dr. Kaufman wheels himself over to the front of the room. He settles in, resting his ankle on his knee. His dress socks slink down his ankle. He takes a moment before looking at my mom and me. "So, I'm gathering that you feel like you're having some difficulties," he says. He always has this look on his face after he says something, like he feels like he just said something really important. I think my mom notices this too, because whenever Dr. Kaufman says anything like this, she has a look on her face that she gets when she's trying not to roll her eyes. I look at Dr. Kaufman, and I imagine how he must see my mom and me, the image we make in our secondhand clothes and Walmart shoes. We're too poor, too country to be taken seriously. I'm a kid, a girl even. How can I be taken seriously by a famous pediatric neurologist? I press my mouth into a thin line. "Well, why don't we wait and see," Mom says, trying to make peace. "If she still feels like this next time, we can try something else. Does that sound okay?" "Yeah, sure," Dr. Kaufman says dismissively. "Does that sound okay, Chickie?" Mom says. I look at my mom and repeat Dr. Kaufman's words. "Yeah, sure." I look back at Dr. Kaufman, making eye contact. I know that next time I still won't be able to remember things, and Dr. Kaufman still brushed it off. But I'm done fighting for the day. On our way home from the hospital, we stopped to get ice cream. It's become our post-doctor visit tradition. I gaze into the display case at the United Dairy Farmers. All of the different ice cream flavors shimmer behind the glass. "I would like a scoop of Blue Moo cookie dough and a scoop of cotton candy," I say to the guy behind the counter. When he hands me my bowl filled with blue ice cream, all of my anxiety melts away, at least for a few minutes. "Are those flavors bright enough for you?" Mom says, smiling. "Yeah, I think so," I said, smiling back. We climb back into the minivan with our bowls, and I hum with happiness. Is there anything better than a bowl of ice cream on a hot summer day? After a few minutes, I say quietly, "I really am forgetting things." My mom nods and says, "I know, Chickie, I know." And I think I'll stop there. The second half of the essay will be available, and this is for children, so I hope you and your kids really enjoy it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Pennington, and I have the honor of introducing Wes Browne. Wes Browne lives within the Kentucky River Basin in Madison County, Kentucky. He has practiced law as a criminal defense attorney, prosecutor, and public defender in Appalachia for over 24 years. He also helps run his family's pizza shops. His latest novel, They All Fall the Same was named one of the best books of 2025 so far by Book Riot and one of 2025's biggest mysteries and thrillers by Goodreads. Wes first attended the Appalachian Writers Workshop as a student in 2012. He began writing his novel Hillbilly Hustle during his 4th year at Heinemann, workshopping it during his 5th year. Merriam-Webster named his debut novel one of their best lockdown reads.
There we go. How's that sound? All right. This is my book. They all fall the same, but I'm not going to read from it tonight. I'm going to do something a little different. The last time I was up here was 2016, and I had 4 minutes, and I read an excerpt of a short story called Sliders. This is my most recent time, obviously. And I'm going to read Sliders, which was published in Cutleaf Journal, their first issue in 2021, because I want to get a chance to finally finish it. I was told something the other day. Keith Lesmeister, did I say it right? Teaches this in his class, a college class, and the epigraph is Knute Rockne. And he said most of his students think Knute Rockne wrote this story. We can all be geniuses because one definition of genius is the infinite capacity for taking pains. Knute Rockne. Mothers of boys fell to weeping each time snow fell on Hague during the winter of 2004. One national magazine referred to the events along Indiana Route 612 as winter carnage in Middle America. We all thought that was rather sensational, but it was turning out to be a particularly bloody season. A sign at the edge of town called Hague, the Pennsylvania of Indiana, on account of the area's odd propensity for mushroom growth. Civic leaders had hoped to spur people to associate Hague with mushroom farms rather than prepubescent boys being hit by cars. But the slogan never took hold outside of regional food production circles. There was no redefining Hague's true nature. It was a slider town. The term slider didn't refer to tiny burgers. It referred to the generations of boys who had careened down a steep-sided, 100-yard-wide gully into the roadway on the backs of single-rider sleds. And though the majority of us survived, some didn't, and others may have wished they hadn't. If my father wished he died in 1978, rather than merely being mangled by a 1977 Fiat 128, green in color, he never let on. His only comment to me on the matter, which he signed one-handed, a letter at a time, was, "Fuck Fiat." Outside of that, he didn't say much at all, at least not to me. The state and the federal government had been rumored on the verge of various remediation projects for as long as anyone could remember, but all that ever happened was Route 612 got a new coat of asphalt, and local law enforcement was encouraged to increase prevention efforts, which they never did. They were mostly Hague boys and former sliders themselves. They knew what tradition meant, and the officers who didn't got taught. If you were a boy of Hague between the ages of 11 and 13, unless you were a pansy or a twat, you took to Slider Hill when it snowed, and you slid. I was 13 going on 14, and I was neither a pansy nor a twat. My last season sliding was drawing to a close. My mother had become desperate to keep me home, but I resolved to see the season through, in spite of the horrors of 2004. Before his skull was crushed under the wheels of a blue onyx pearl Lexus LS 430, Tristan Walters was my best friend. It made a hell of a sound and an even worse sight. Honestly, the man who hit him seemed more upset about the damage to his car than to Tristan, but his wife cried awful hard, as did I. My mother, who had been tending my father's colostomy bag since before they were married, it's how she met him for Christ's sake, seemed to believe Tristan's death might dissuade me from sliding. She had similar hopes that my baby sister would stop lighting fires after she suffered third-degree burns over 17% of her body. In both cases, she was disappointed. Tristan made it a full dozen boys who had been struck on the year, a record. He was 2004's fifth fatality, also a record. The 7th grade basketball team had lost its entire front court, and the track squad was short 2 on the 4x100 relay. It hadn't been this bad since 1991, when Nirvana first broke, and people say boys were keen to die. Tristan and I had run staples into our hands at the first sign of snow that season and mashed them together in pride. We were blood brothers, and brothers in having staple scars. We met in preschool, and aside from a brief Yu-Gi-Oh! Beyblade split, people said we were like non-conjoined fraternal twins living in different households. Tristan and I had amassed the largest ninja throwing star collection in Indiana, according to the leading authorities at our school. We kept half at my house and half at his. He kept his part of the collection in a red plastic classic Folgers roast coffee tub. Mine was in a green classic roast decaf. His tub sat atop his coffin at the funeral, and it wasn't until I made my way through the greeting line that his mother took it from its perch and handed it to me. He always said these were yours and his both. You can do whatever you want with them. Shove them up your ass for all I care. I decided not to. Instead, I kept them in their separate tub and put them on the shelf in my bedroom next to my green tub. What looked to be the last good snow of the year started falling the morning after Tristan was buried. The forecast said temperatures would spike to 60 the following day. Before I got my sled for what looked to be my final slide, I showed the red and green tubs to my baby sister. I said, if anything happens to me out there, these are yours. Okay, thanks, she said. The only thing that'll burn is the tubs, though. People said my father was the most daring nosediver who ever lived. They said I had a lot to live up to. They said he shit in a bag. All of it was true. If Fiats weren't so small and hard to judge, the last might not have been the case. Nosediving was when you ran your sled right at the front grille of a car or truck. If you timed it perfectly, onlookers wouldn't know if you made it safe or not until the car went by and you were unscathed on the median. All sliders were respected. Nosedivers were revered. Whether it be in town, the ICU, or the graveyard, nosedivers were special. No one slides until noon. That was the rule, and only one person ever broke it. He was beaten so badly, charges got filed. They were later dropped. We had about 5 minutes left to wait. Slider Hill crackled with chatter and noise. Some boys already called out our battle cry, "Diggy, diggy, hoo!" The battle cry was first used January 14th, 1978, by the greatest living slider, Hal Boldman, before the greatest slide of all time. The greatest slide of all time was known to everyone in Hague, whether they liked sliding or not. On that auspicious day, Hal slid between the front and rear axles of an 18-wheel mushroom truck. Hal was what is now referred to as intellectually disabled, but at the time of his legendary slide, people called him something much worse. After the greatest slide of all time, nobody called him that word anymore. They called him the greatest living slider. As an adult, he also became known as the best real estate agent in Hague. My mother said Hal Boldman could sell anything. Though she fell to her knees almost daily begging me not to slide, my mother was enamored of sliders during her teenage years. She was always either watching the sliders ride or in the restrooms behind the concession stand giving pep talks to some of the other sliders inside the bathroom stalls. Whenever we ran into Hal Boldman in town, my mother kind of swooned. Sometimes I wondered if she could trade my dad, the most daring nosediver, for Hal, the greatest living slider. But Hal was married, and besides that, people said he got around. All at once, the battle cries and chatter fell away. A hush overtook the snowy hilltop, followed by murmurs, and I knew something extraordinary was happening. Even the adults and children in the grandstand were silent. One by one, the boys all around me turned and held their flexible flyers, pelicans, and coops to their chests, our greatest sign of respect. I turned to see my mother struggling to lead my father, the most daring, through the 4 inches of fresh powder. My father could walk, but not well. It was a sort of sideways, two-step stumbling affair. We had an old picture of him at our house running the bases in a baseball game when he was maybe 9 years old. And I always wished I could see him that way one time, but his running days were over. They came straight to me, her leading him by the hand. I had been waxing the runners of my sled, but paused when the crowd went still. My mom stood in front of me with her hands clasped. My dad looked me dead in the eye with his right eye while the left one stared into space, 4 feet over and to the left of my head, but I was used to that. Calvin, she said, you don't have to slide today. You don't have to slide at all. Everyone would understand. I clenched my jaw. No, they wouldn't. Tristan wouldn't understand. My mom shook her head. I think he would, especially now. I think we'd want to see you alive. I think he'd want to see you healthy. He'd want you to throw those ninja stars. That's what I think he'd want. I sighed hard and looked at the sky. Why are you doing this, Mom? Why are you asking me to stop? You love sliding. I know you did. How can you ask me that? You're right, my mom said, putting her hand to her chest. I did love it, but I didn't know any better, Calvin. It's different when it's your own child. My heart's been in my mouth every minute since your 11th birthday. Everyone thought I cried at your party because Uncle Roy exposed himself again. But that wasn't it. I cried because you'd reached sliding age. She went into her pocket for a handkerchief and put it to the bottom of her eyes before she continued. If anything happened to you, I don't think I could go on. There'd be no point in it. None of this is worth it, Calvin. None of it. It's not worth seeing you or any of these boys get hurt over a few years of glory. She swept the surroundings with her handkerchief-wrapped finger. Over tradition. My dad still stared at me with one eye. I stared back. Then I said, but sliding's in my blood. I'm a Hague boy. We're all Hague boys. This is what we do. It's not all you are, she said. There's so much else. There's other things you could love if you gave them a chance. Things like basketball and soccer and crappie fishing. I don't know. There's just so much out there. There's just so much out there. You had a good run, Calvin. But think of all you could lose for one last slide. My mom gestured toward my dad, her hand shaking like a can of paint at the hardware store. Think about all sliding's cost your father. We've had a good life, you know that. But what kind of life could we have had? What kind of life could Tristan have had? I looked at my dad again. His head shuddered, and I couldn't tell if he was nodding or if it was involuntary, because sometimes he did that. A little line of slobber dripped down his chin, and I had the urge to take my shirt sleeve and wipe it off so bad. Then I looked back at my mom. She extended one hand toward my sled. She looked around, then shouted loud enough for people in the grandstand to hear, "Haven't we all given Enough. No one on Slider Hill made a sound. For the first time, I realized the other boys had gathered around. They were listening. Then I heard someone nearby say quietly, with reverence, "Crappies are good eating." Then it was someone else who said, "I like bowling awful well. I'd hate it if I couldn't bowl anymore." Another boy said, "I don't want to shit in a bag." That was when I heard myself say, "Baseball. I like baseball." "You always have," my mom said. "I don't just like it, I love it. With all the running and throwing and spitting and touching your balls." "That's right, Calvin," my mom said. "I know you love all those things." My eyes went to the grandstand, then the hill, then all the other boys. I looked at my mom, who clutched her handkerchief like it was a squirrel and she was trying to wring its neck. Finally, I looked in my father's eye one last time before I held out my sled and I put it in my mother's hand. As I did, the boys all around me looked at their sleds. The corners of my mother's mouth creased with a soft smile. Just as she took the sled from me, my father's good hand shot out and knocked it to the ground. I was so startled that I didn't move. He looked down at my sled on the ground, then fixed his right eye back on me. I didn't understand. I couldn't. I said, "I don't understand. I can't." My father's nose flared and his lips flexed like he was trying to get something out of his teeth. He raised his hand again and slowly signed, "Fuck Fiat." I stepped toward my father, took my sleeve in my hand, and wiped the drool from his chin. Then I grabbed my sled, raised it over my head with both hands, and howled, "Diggy, diggy, hoo!" The boys all around me cried back, "Diggy, diggy, hoo!" out of unison, like a pack of dingoes. And I was gone, tear-assing for the hill, tear-assing toward glory and tradition, tear-assing toward the rest of my life, no matter how long or short, with a horde of puberty-stricken boys bawling at my heels. I would remember that instant of abandon as the last great moment of my life in Hague. 9 months later, my family would move away after the high school burned down. I crested the hill, and in the distance, it was all mushroom farms, dormant but sprawling as far as the eye could see. In closer, I spotted a throng of cars and trucks rumbling along 612. As soon as I saw them, my feet left the ground, and I was in the air headed for traffic. In that moment of flight, I'd like to say I thought of Tristan or my dad or all the boys who came before me, but I didn't. I thought only of the feeling in my chest and in my head and of the sled in my hands. I thought I should hold on tight, hold on tighter than I ever had.
My name is Patsy Kisner, and I am very happy to introduce Kari tonight. First and foremost, Kari Gunter-Seymour is one of the kindest, sincerest people I've known. She is determined, fierce, and works tirelessly to uplift Appalachian voices. Her work as founder and executive director of the Women of Appalachia Project has nurtured and encouraged a multitude of women, including myself, to continue writing, singing, performing, and creating our art. She has served as an extraordinary poet laureate for the state of Ohio for the past 6 years and garnered national attention for her efforts. She is the author of 3 poetry collections, A place so deep inside America it can't be seen, Alone in the House of My Heart, and Dirt Songs. She is also editor of the Women Speak anthologies and the anthology I Thought I Heard a Cardinal Sing. Her poetry has won multiple prestigious awards, including an Ohio Poet of the Year Award, a Legacy Award, an ABF Best Book Award, the Potty Award, and the Story Trade Award. I want to add to that list of accomplishments that her beautiful poems have also won our hearts. With much love and affection, I'd like to introduce Kari Gunter-Seymour.
I've got a big old lump in my throat now. Seriously. Well, first of all, I want to say how much I appreciated hearing from Kendra and Wes. What wonderful, wonderful stories. The fact that yours is true was so moving, Kendra. And Wes, oh my gosh, I don't think I've laughed that hard since I got here, and I've been doing some laughing, so that was wonderful. So I'm going to just jump right in. I'm going to get a little rowdy tonight. I don't get a chance to do that because I'm government appointed, so I'm expected to act a certain way. But, I'm just going to say, fuck fiat. So I'm going to read some new work. Yeah. People, honestly, they come up and ask me, what's up with rural America in politics? And I'm sure it happens to all of you every now and then, too, right? Like every rural person knows the answer to that and is also, we're all just exactly alike, So, but what I have started doing is telling them I'm an expert. No, I'm kidding. And I try to remain dignified, which y'all know me, so that's hard. And but I do say to them that generational disparity is real. The bootstrap theory is a myth. And we can't continue to hold people in poverty for generations and expect them to feel like they're part of us and part of this country. And for some reason, people think that Appalachia is just poverty. And Appalachia doesn't have any more poverty than any of the rest of rural America. It's just that no money is funneling down. And these are folks who've kept the lights on and fed us over and over for generations. And we should know better. And we do. You and I, we do know. And so I tell people, stop extracting. Stop exploiting. These practices are literally killing us all. And we have gotten that message across about extracting pretty well. But for many of us, it's being chemical alley now. We have all the chemical plants that have moved in and made huge dents in our life. So I wanted to share this poem. These truths, self-evident. My son's wife's aunt, who worked the line at DuPont for 20 years, can't breathe without O2 through a plastic tube because of C8. But hey, America needed its non-stick fry pans. Corporate peddled that poison for decades, paying Peter to silence Paul, careless of the plague inflicted on this valley. The spina bifida, muscular dystrophy, the myriad of deformities and developmental displays, land laved, water impotable, livestock fallen dead in the fields. It was 55 degrees today on my ride home, remnants of a rainstorm threatening the horizon, mounds of snow along the highway refusing to melt. Clouds of steam rippled above the sludge as if thumbing a wet nose at the weatherman who keeps preaching the gospel of global warming to the hearless. I rest my cheek against the cool poplar of my kitchen table, its rugged grain whispering ancient vows like a buzz of bees huddling a dying hive. We, the people, no longer able to predict which doors will slam and whose faces, the ribbon of rot running deep. And emptiness cauterizes the moon. The dirt is coming for us all. So, how many of y'all started making bread during COVID? Yeah. It made me feel like I had a little bit of control over something. Is that what it did for y'all? So, of late, I have felt the need for some control and started baking bread again, making time to do it. So I'm not good at it, but I do it, I'm not. So I had to write this poem, and it's what this country needs. K-N-E-A-D-S. With awkward hands, which represent what faith I can muster, I need the dough. Heels of my palm coaxing, fingers cupping, stretching, folding, rolling, every gesture an act of vulnerability, a study in grace, a prayer for outcome. Wholesome loaves to share at my table, a fine-grained crust, yielding inner crumb. Oh, America, I have accepted your pasty pale excuse of a loaf for way too long in the name of peace and prosperity. Full no longer. I bake black, red, yellow. I bake fat and skinny. I bake they, them, he, him, zer, it, she, her, zim. Jewish rye and Turkish flatbread, melon pan and conchas, Serbian soda. I bake like companies coming and bringing persnickety Aunt Frida. I bake like Paul Hollywood is judging and Jesus is preparing his sermon. I bake like there's no tomorrow or a tomorrow after that because I swear on a stack of authorized, revised, diversified King James versions, you, America, have got your motor running, but are firing on all the wrong cylinders. And Aunt Frida carries a loaded handgun concealed in her privileged white pocket. So I'm going to behave for just a moment. So spring took its time coming to southeastern Ohio this year. I don't know about you all. And now we're just like, But for us, it's about February when the robins, the American robins, start coming. Is it like that anywhere else for you all? That the robins are kind of that harbinger of spring, and they're not very smart, are they? They're just kind of silly, but we kind of associate them with our dead loved ones as well, right? And my mama used to tell me this story about she just loved the robins because that beautiful color on their breast came from their pricking their breast against the crown of thorns on Jesus' head. Anybody else ever hear that story? Oh, a couple people have, because I thought she must have made that up. I don't know. But anyway, I want to read this little poem, and just a beautiful little poem about the American robin. But I'm going to need y'all's help. And so I'm going to go like this, and I want y'all to say tweet, tweet, tweet. So let's practice. A windfall of American robins flap the valley on this balmy, budding dawn, festoon unwitting branches in glints orange red. Dozens splash in the creek, sing with rusted tongues the language of risen grass, tepid rain, laughing toddlers. Sky a mass of mists, sunbeams blink ochre and auburn across dew-gilded meadows. The light an illusion of wonder and awe, as if the scrim between life and death has thinned, is penetrable, if only we trill tenderly, fling open windows and doors until the house becomes air. She rocks in the treetops all the day long, hopping and a-bopping and a-singing her song. All the other birdies be stomping their feet, love to hear the robin singing, sweet, sweet, sweet. Rockin' Robin, rockin' Robin. Hey, rockin' Robin got a lot of rockin' going on. Yeah! Thank you so much, everybody. Beautiful, beautiful work. I think you can put that on your resume. Gonna get a little bit serious again. To the woman in Walmart who was dancing to Shakira in the pots and pans aisle. I'd had a shit day when I stumbled into the whole bobop. You're back to me, all hips don't lie. Hands flinging corporate America's flimsiest filtered warehouse air. My own feet beginning to slide and shook, drawn into that vortex, adding my own brand of arriba to the mix. Our cha-cha swoops reminiscent of broom swipes laid down by my great-grandmother, who I was told swept daily across a series of rich men's floors to keep her children fed. What a sight. Both of us raggedy as a couple of used books, plainly living lives we did not choose or didn't choose wisely. Life, a holier-than-thou hand of cards dealt by a duplicitous deity. Who could remember which of us was first to grab a long-handled pan, a wooden spoon, our need for percussion fierce, our efforts quickly evolving into a cautionary tale? For the record, I don't give a hot damn about what the manager said. I was planning to buy a saucepan anyway. So I just have a couple more poems for you. In Ohio, there's an amusement park, and it's called Kings Island. So some of you know it. You might be from nearby. And it was, in my day, it was the largest wooden roller coaster in the country. And they were something. You know, you'd ride them, not only were you doing this, you were doing this too, you know. And I'm telling my age here, but at that time, the band Bad Company was very popular. Do y'all know Bad Company? Head banging, right? Okay, so you're at Kings Island, you're head banging, right? Okay. Whoops. Oh, wrong book. This is Dirt Songs. Woo. Okay. And the Beast, don't forget the Beast. Bad Company. Electric bass guitar riffs, magnified times 10 subwoofers mounted to metal signposts, Paul Rogers' moany lyrics thrust every direction, his voice alone enough to slick the thighs of every female high schooler standing sweat-soaked in line. Senior trip, Kings Island, 1979. Head banging, hips swinging side to side, arms thrown wide, waiting to ride the beast. Tallest, fastest, longest wood roller coaster in the world. The boys spurting predictable agonies and pheromones. Wasn't long before Emmy Bond and Jeff Bevins were all over each other, tongues tangling. I pretended not to see him slip a hand inside her shorts, ignored the way her head flew back. I won't say whether I let one of those rowdy boys do the five-finger shopping cop underneath my tank top on the long bus ride home, but it was freaking hot that day, I'll give you that. So one last poem in honor of Appalachia. I don't want this to sound briggity, but I was able to read this at the Dodge Poetry Festival a few years ago, and the topic of the reading was kneel and kiss the ground, things we were grateful for. And this was right when he who shall not be named was spouting so badly about Appalachia. We didn't know that he was going to be our vice president. I mean, who could have ever even imagined? But I did say I was so happy to be able to speak honestly about Appalachia in such a format. And this is called, oh, I need to tell you too, my husband has this amazing tenor voice, and he just breaks into song. Like I'll say, honey, you want pork chops or spaghetti for dinner? And he'll be like, spaghetti, you know, just really, I mean, he, so you'll figure out why I told you that at the end of the poem. Okay, and this is called To No One in Particular. I am never happy to see summer go, earth stripped of its finest voice. I'm sitting outside in my heavy coat, porch light off. There is a full-on moon, no ambient distractions, the sky a Zion. I take solace in considering the age of this valley, the way water left its mark on Appalachia long before Peabody sunk a shaft, Chevron augured the shale, or ODOT dynamited roadways through steep rock. I grew up in a house where canned fruit cocktail was considered a treat. My sister and I fought over who got to eat the fake cherries. Standouts in the can, though, tasting exactly like every other tired piece of fruit floating in the heavy syrup. But it was store-bought, like city folks. And we were too gullible to understand the corruption in the concept. Our mother's home canned harvest superior in every way. I cringe when I think of how we shamed her. So much here depends upon a green cornstalk, a patched barn roof, weather, the Lord, community. We've rarely been offered a hand that didn't destroy. Inside the house, the light bulb comes on when the refrigerator door is opened. My husband rummages a snack, plops beside me on the porch to wolf it down, turns, plants a kiss, leans back in his chair, says to no one in particular, a person could spend a lifetime under a sky such as this. Stands, bows, offers his hand, and sings. Buffalo gal, won't you come out tonight? Come out tonight. Come out tonight, come dance with a man with a hole in his stocking. His knees are a knocking, but his feet keep rocking. Come dance with a man with a hole in his stocking. We'll dance by the light of the moon. Let us dance by the light of the moon. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
It's me again, Margaret. Kari, that was so wonderful and such a fitting transition and into this presentation by our musician in residence, Doug Van Gundy, who I've been charged with introducing. So I'm just going to tell y'all a real quick history that I have with Doug, and then read something very short, and this will take no time. So I met Doug at the Appalachian Studies Conference, and he had one of my dad's mandolins. My dad's mandolin builder, and he had one of my dad's mandolins with him. I walked up and was like, wow, that's really cool that you happen to have that. We talked about it a little bit. It was a brief interaction, and I figured he probably wouldn't remember who I was. And then not only remembered who I was, remembered who my mother was just, and immediately like, oh yeah, I'm so glad to see you, friend. The very next time I saw him, immediately. And curiously, just a few little details here. I understand, and correct me if I've got the details wrong somehow, that when Doug goes to a meaningful place or a meaningful event in life, he will go and purchase a cologne, a scent, specifically for that event location, and then use it only the one time and keep it so that whenever he wants to remember that moment, he can go back and smell that scent, which I think is quite possibly one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard in my life. And I would do it, but it'd be unoriginal. I'm working up my own thing. I'm workshopping some things. I'll let y'all know about that. A little feedback. I found out pretty quickly that Doug and I have a very similar brand of ADHD, and that made our first workshop together where Doug was my instructor, and we were trying to do a one-on-one meeting, and that was fascinating. I think we did get through most of the first poem, and which was good. Honestly, I was impressed with us for that. By the end of the conversation, I think I had learned more than I possibly could have, looking at those same 4 or 5 poems again, and we could have talked it to death. But I think we knew where we were at, and we were on the same wavelength, so we've just been riding it ever since. To the extent that if I'm acting anxious at all, Doug will come up to me and hand me a fidget spinner, a fidget tool or something. If I look nervous, he's like, hey, check this out. I'm like, I really like that. He said, you can have that. I was like, that's great. I really like your trousers, Doug. Just a quick friend to a lot of people, has been a dear friend to a lot of people. And I won't say that it is without their consent, but it is very sudden. It does seem to happen kind of quickly. You turn around and you're kind of over your head in it. And finally, penultimately, one of the best huggers on the planet. Yeah, great hugs. Just the best. And then, truly, ultimately, I have a close person to me that I no longer have contact with, and it's really difficult. And Doug shared something with me about that I can't really explain fully here now. I don't have time, but it was really meaningful to me. I have that piece of that relationship preserved in my phone because of Doug. And so finally, I want to just read only the spark notes that I kept so that I didn't forget what I was going to say. Doug, the mandolin story, the friendly way, every cent memory, reading on request, attention deficit, fidget tools, a warm hug, a fast friend, the last good thing I have of someone I love. Doug Van Gundy.
Good. Here we go. I have no idea what to do with that, but thank you, Matt. A lot. So I'm really honored to be here as your musician in residence this time around. This is my 10th year at Heinemann, and Heinemann has become a home away from home for me, and many of you all have become just essential people to me. And it's an honor to be able to share some music with you instead of getting up here and talking about poems. Pardon me, just button that up. I forgot I was in polite company. All right, so I'm gonna play you some fiddle tunes, and I'm gonna sing you a couple of songs. So here we go. I was lucky enough to learn to play fiddle from a man named William Moses Kaufman from Greenbrier County, West Virginia. And his people came to Greenbrier County in 1777. They were Anabaptists, early Mennonites, and they came to the town of Frankfurt. And Mose was born in 1905. He learned to play fiddle from a Union Army veteran named Glenn G. Gillespie, who was born in Greenbrier County in 1840. Mose learned to play banjo from a freed slave who was born in 1851 and was one of his mother's best friends. This woman would play the banjo sitting cross-legged on the floor. He said because when she learned to play the banjo, they just had a dirt-floored cabin. They had no furniture or anything. And so whenever she would teach him a banjo lesson, she would, go in the living room and he'd sit down cross-legged on the floor because she never felt right playing it sitting in a chair, which boggles my mind. And it boggles my mind that there's this one man who knew me and who I'm telling you about tonight, who also knew somebody who was born in 1840. And I am not unaware or ungrateful for the charge that his teaching me music has imparted. So one of his favorite tunes was a great old dance tune called The Forked Deer, and here it is. Let me make sure I'm in tune. Okay, good. Thanks. Thank y'all a lot. Any of y'all play the fiddle or the violin? Or ever had lessons? Okay. Most people play the fiddle tuned from low to high, G, D, A, E, and don't tune it anywhere else. But the old folks I knew, the old fiddlers in central West Virginia played in a bunch of different tunings. Most played in 9, and so I play in 9. So I'm just getting this into the tuning for the next key. There we go. And I'll play one on the fiddle and sing. I was at a festival one time and I was playing the fiddle and singing, and somebody came up to me and said, "Wow, how do you play the fiddle and sing? That looks so hard." And I said, "I learned to do it before anyone told me it was hard." It just seemed like something to do. This is a fiddle tune from Pocahontas and Randolph counties, West Virginia, and the words mostly come from Maggie Hammonds Parker, who was a ballad singer and part of the famous Hammonds family of Pocahontas and Webster counties. And this is called Sandy Boys. Chickens come for a day. We are looking for the big boss man, trying to get our pay. Do get along, Sandy boys. Do get along, oh do. Do get along, Sandy boys, away from the booger-boo. And I wish they'd bring him back. Chase the big hogs over the fence, little ones through the cracks. You get along, Sandy boys. You get along, oh do. You get along, Sandy boys, away from the booger-boo. Raccoon's got a bushy tail and a possum's his bear. Rabbit ain't got no tail at all, just a little white patch of hair. You get along, Sandy boys. You get along, oh do. Do get along, Sandy boys, away from the booger-boo. Woo! Thank you. Thanks a whole lot. So I was honored to be asked to be part of the inaugural Appalachian Songwriters Weekend here at Hyman, and a big hand to everyone who came and participated, and especially to Sarah Kate Morgan for putting it all together. It was a great success. We had had an incredible amount of talent in the room, and I think people left wanting more. I hope that was the first of what will be many. Can you hear that all right? Anyway, I am a writer. And I've written songs forever, but most of them are just kind of silly. And so here's one of those. As Jimi Hendrix said, we tune because we care. And as my musical partner Paul Gartner says, we tune because we can. So, a little boy is listening to his dad play the banjo, and he goes over to his mother and says, "Mom, when I grow up, I want to be a banjo player." And she says, "Son, you can't have it both ways." Okay, here we go. I'll admit I was a little bit drunk when I come home that evening, but I can still read the note that you stuck to our old Frigidaire. I read how I took all your needs and your feelings for granted, but I still for my life couldn't see why it was you weren't there. I reread your letter, and then I opened up a can of ravioli, and I ate it there cold in the kitchen, standing over the sink. I put on Hank Williams. He sang about fun on the bayou. Then I filled up a jam jar with ice, poured me a drink. On the day that you left, you drove off in my truck. You left me alone, feeling down on my luck. And of all of my friends, you left me just 3. Hank Williams, Jack Daniels, and Chef Boyardee. Now for years, our friends have all said that I should treat you better. And your mama has said just the same, only not quite as kind. But a man like me was built to go out to the cheap bars. And when I left you at home all alone, didn't think you'd mind. On the day that you left, you drove off in my truck. Left me alone, feeling down on my luck. And of all of my friends, you left me just 3. Hank Williams, Jack Daniels, and Chef Boyardee. Oh, pick it, son. Now you're gone. I have to admit, I'm a little bit lonely. And when I come home at dawn, it isn't your face that I see. There's just an old countertop full of opened up cans of spaghetti, and a grease stain out in the gravel where my truck used to be. On the day that you left, you drove off in my truck. You left me alone, feeling down on my luck. And of all of my friends, you left me just 3. Believe you know them. Sing it with me. Hank Williams, Jack Daniels, and Chef Boyardee. Oh yes. all of my friends. You left me just three. Hank Williams, Daniels, and me. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, obviously, because those are the kind of songs that I've written, I was surprised when they asked me to be part of the Songwriters Weekend. And I don't know about y'all, but most writers I know have a mild to crippling case of imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome, woohoo! All right, so I decided I needed to write 2 entirely new, brand new songs before the weekend so I could feel like I deserved to be there. So I don't have time for both of them tonight. Try to be real cautious and aware of my time. But I'm going to sing this one for you. And I was here with many of you in 2022 when Writers Week was cut short by 2 days because of the flood. And I know a lot of us have done a lot of thinking about the flood and a lot of writing about the flood. And I think we all owe a great debt of gratitude to Melissa Helton for putting together the wonderful Troublesome Rising anthology. And a great debt of gratitude to all the writers who contributed to that. Many of you are in the room right now. I'm about to sing a song about the flood, so if this is going to be too much for you, consider this your content warning. I will say I don't describe the flood because I couldn't figure out how to write it. And then I realized I'll just borrow something in songwriting that we use in poetry and essay writing and all the time, which is negative space. So here we go. I went to Kentucky to see all my friends for a family reunion, although we're not kin. Way down in Knott County, where the troublesome starts, and the small town of Hindman that holds half my heart. We gathered together as friends like to do, for songs and for laughter and a story or two. We laughed at the same jokes again and again, so our spirits weren't dampened when it started to rain. I've been through the sorrow myself. I know dirty water's the way that hell smells. It ain't fire and brimstone, it's mildew and mud. It's your tears in the darkness after the flood. Some went to bed early, some stayed up till 2. When the going to bed was all there was left to do. Later that morning, while we were asleep, the creek, once just inches, grew 20 feet deep. We huddled together upon higher ground. Someone had a bottle, so we passed that around. I can't bear to sing of the sobering sight that lay there before us in the dawn's early light. I've been through sorrow myself. I know dirty water's the way that hell smells. It ain't fire and brimstone, it's mildew and mud. It's your tears in the darkness after the flood. Some came back days later. What did they see? What was underwater, now strewn with debris. With timber and clothing and heating oil tanks, and the troublesome back in its banks. I'm from West Virginia, way up in the hills. I'm from North Carolina, with its factories and mills. I'm from Knoxville and Danville, I'm from valleys and plains. I'm from eastern Kentucky, whenever it rains. I've been through the sorrow myself. I know dirty water's the way that hell smells. It ain't fire and brimstone, it's mildew and mud. It's your tears in the darkness after the flood. It's your tears in the darkness after the flood. That's for y'all. And because I don't want to leave the room on that note, I'm going to do something absolutely absurd that I've never done. And I'm going to sing the song Groundhog for you, which I have sung, but I'm going to sing it like this. What old woman was the mother of Saul? What old woman was the mother of Saul? Fed us on a whistle pig before we could crawl. Groundhog. Shoulder up your gun and whistle up your dog. Shoulder up your gun and whistle up your dog. We're headed up the holler for to catch a groundhog. Groundhog. A briar down the hole to twist him out. A briar down the hole to twist him out. Good gosh almighty, but a groundhog stout. Groundhog. Ashes in the turn to tan his hide. Ashes in the turn to tan his hide. Makes the best shoestrings you ever tied. Groundhog. Hey! Here comes Granny tapping her cane. Here comes Granny tapping her cane. Swear she'll eat that groundhog's brain. Groundhog. There's a little piece of cornbread lying on the shelf. A little piece of cornbread lying on the shelf. If you want any more, you can sing it yourself. Groundhog. Thank y'all so much.
Let's keep it going for Doug Van Gundy. And a little bit more for Kari, Wes, and Kendra as well. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. We will see you bright and early in the morning, and I do know that Mandy would love to sell you some books if you heard something that you want to buy tonight. Good night.